we are going to be a fortress North America in terms of how we protect ourselves militarily against the threats that are out there, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, or whether it's somebody else. That is in there. Those are the kinds of things that you have in there. You've got steel, you've got aluminum, you've got uranium, you've got food. All of those types of things were parts that we believed were, a future and a vision of taking, a relationship that was pretty darn good, and some would even go further than that. We created a lot of wealth and a lot of prosperity on both sides of the border.
Guys, very exciting show today. I have an exclusive one-on-one interview with Ambassador Pete Hoekstra, the U.S. Ambassador to Canada. This comes on the heels of the decision by Mark Carney to walk away from the trade negotiations. It's an interesting interview. I ask him what actually happened. I put some of Mark Carney's objections to the ambassador, and I talk about other things, including Doug Ford. Well, we're joined now by the U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. It looked like Canada and the United States were finally going to get a trade deal, the thing that Mark Carney campaigned that he alone could do in the last general election. It looked like it was a done deal. Mark Carney himself was holidaying in Tuscany, and then it fell apart. Ambassador Hoekstra, what happened?
Well, it's unclear. I mean, we had put on the table the best deal to any country in the world, providing Canada with the best access to the largest market in the world. And at some point in time, that was taken away.
Ambassador Jameson Greer, the U.S. Trade Representative, I understand he's off to Brazil. Does that suggest that maybe he's decided to move on to other projects? Do you think there's a chance we can get the negotiations back on track?
Well, I mean, from our perspective, it was Canada that walked away from the negotiations last week, Friday. I think the Prime Minister has indicated the same thing, that he recalled his negotiating team back to Ottawa. So if Canada wants to reopen negotiations or whatever, I believe that may be possible, but it'll be hard to get back to that point.
Canada's Cabinet Minister François Philippe Champagne announced a retaliation trying to match the size of U.S. tariffs against Canada. What's your reaction to that? Because some of the retaliatory tariffs had seemed to be, inflaming the situation. The Prime Minister has said it's an all-out trade war with the United States. Will there be more reaction from the United States because of these retaliatory tariffs from Canada?
Well, I think the president and Jameson Greer, Howard Lutnick, and others who have talked about this. Number one, we knew these tariffs were coming back, or that they were going to be put in place. They're going into effect on September 8th. So it's kind of like, okay, here they are. The president has indicated that, the current negotiations appear to be suspended, and that on January 1, we will put in place other additional tariffs. That's when we are going to move forward, and then we'll take the next step as we look at the various alternatives that we have in place. But we don't call it a trade war. It's very simple. This is trade negotiations. This is the second time it's happened to the United States of America that we thought we were close to a deal, and the Canadians backed away from that. So we'll just have to see.
A few months ago, Prime Minister Carney went to Beijing, and he said at a high-level meeting that Canada was committing to a new world order. And he talked about the strategic importance of China, who he had earlier called a strategic threat. Here's a quick clip of that key moment. Take a look.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
A Chinese propaganda newspaper called Global Times published an op-ed on Prime Minister Carney's decision to walk away from the trade negotiations. It called Canada a former close ally, and it said that Carney was doing a Chinese-style pushback. China's obviously delighted by this. Do you think that that pro-China ideology has anything to do with Canada rejecting the U.S. agreement and looking to deepen economic ties to China?
That's really something for the prime minister to address. That is not our concern. We're trying to reach a trade agreement, or we were trying to reach a trade agreement with Canada. Put the best offer on the table that we've given to anybody, which kind of tells you where the United States sees this relationship moving forward. Obviously, we were disappointed by what came out of Friday afternoon, Friday night. We were disappointed by what happened over the weekend, but we stood ready to move forward, to have a good relationship with Canada. I think we believe that that's where Canada was, but we'll just have to wait and see in terms of where this ends up, or whether this is the end.
One of the things that critics of the prime minister have noted is that he speaks with some vagueness about the actual reasons for breaking off negotiations. Let me play for you a quick clip where he talks about a threat, he claims, to Quebec and French Canadian culture. And then I'd like your reaction to it. Take a quick look.
This was not our choice. We were there. We were ready and close to having a comprehensive agreement that would be fair to both countries. We were close to that happening, and it seemed that we were close to reaching a comprehensive and fair agreement with the United States. But they made changes, including threats on the French language and Quebec culture and Canadian culture. That is not acceptable. That would never be acceptable.
Ambassador Greer was asked about this on U.S. TV. He said he didn't understand it at all, and that he thought the prime minister was mischaracterizing a concern about a 5% tax on Netflix that would then be spent on some Canadian content. So it almost was like he was startled by the accusation. Can you give us some clarity? Do you know what Mark Carney was talking about there?
I do not. The president has come out and talked about this and said, why would we try to do this? It's exactly what the United States of America stands for, that countries negotiate what is in their best interest. I've also talked to the folks who work with Ambassador Greer, and they're saying, no, and I saw a preliminary agreement where this was all dealt with. And, the president has indicated we value. The president loves Quebec. Jameson Greer, he speaks French. His kids speak French. I think one of his kids was actually born there. I went to Quebec City. We did a tour with one of the local guides there. He very much explained to us in terms of the value of, the French language, the French culture in Quebec, and how important it was to them to maintain that. And so, I know I can't explain it. This is something that that was never on our agenda, never on our radar screen. What was on our radar screen was, you're not going to tax American companies to maintain that unique feature of Quebec into the lore and the history and the culture of who Canada is. That's that's great. We applaud it. We recognize it, and move forward with it. That's fine.
I want to ask just one more question about what Prime Minister Carney says were his reasons for walking away. And I think it's important because if he has embellished his reasons or really torqued them, and your last answer to me about Quebec suggests that what he said to Canadians may be a bit different than what happened in the negotiating room, I want to put to you one more objection that the Prime Minister claimed. He was talking about a provision that I think it's already exists in the USMCA, Article 3210, that gives each of the countries the right to veto another trade deal with a non-market economy. So the three countries, all under Article 3210, all agree that if, let's say, there was a trade deal with China, the others could object. It's in the treaty now. Here's how Prime Minister Carney referred to that limit on countries making other trade deals. I just want to play his clip. Take a look.
Trying to get us gain more control over our trade policy.
Oh, why are they trying to do that? It's a power play. It's a power play, and becomes a question of sovereignty. Look, let's take a big step back, and this is what is unfortunate about the situation we're in. We're here for the right reason, but it's unfortunate. Canada and America and our G7 partners, we think about a lot of issues the same way. We're concerned about excess capacity in non-market economies. We care deeply about forced labor, child labor. We want it, and I'll take that second example where absolutely, do we want to cooperate? Do we want to share information? We want to align our approaches and our implementation of those approaches. And was that potentially part of this deal? Absolutely. There's a host of other things where absolutely we want to work together. But when it moves into restrictions and using Canada effectively as more leverage for America, clearly Canadians wouldn't accept that. We're a proud, independent country. We've got the right values. We'll make our decisions about who we want to trade with and how, and including on how we work with the United States and other partners.
So that sounds, and again, it's vague and he's not being very precise. It sounds like he objects to Article 3210, which has been in there, I think, for years, but he's positing that as a reason he walked away. Am I misunderstanding? I'm trying to understand, why did he really quit? Because the last two examples I put to you don't seem to add up. Do you have anything to add to clarify?
No, I think that is for the Canadian side to clarify to the Canadian people. If there's a clarification that's necessary, we know exactly where we stand on this. No, we don't tell a country which countries they can develop a trade agreement with. We don't tell them, outside of what is already in the CUSMA agreement, in terms of what influence that we will have over that. What we do know is that, we provided Canada with the best deal in the world. And for whatever reason it was, and, we're kind of going through some of this as well, but for whatever reason it was that they walked away, it's not because of, it may be because of French language, but it's kind of like, we're not asking for anything more in French language. We're not asking for anything more in terms of, a free country, a sovereign country moving back in agreements. What we will say on those types of things is that if you decide to create a sovereign agreement between Canada and a country that is not a free market type of country, that may affect the ability or the tariff rate that Canada may receive. If you go into a country that you decide to say, well, XYZ products, those come into Canada with no tariffs, and it's going to be a bypass, market. yeah, that will have an impact on the relationship and on the tariffs, but we won't get into saying you can't do that unless it's outlined in USMCA.
Hmm. One thing I learned, I think it was in the New York Times, came as a surprise to me, is that Prime Minister Carney offered to the U.S. side to revive the Keystone XL pipeline. I think it has a different name now, and
Right.
this was sort of an offer to the U.S. asking for some sort of concessions in return. Can you speak to this? Because I mean, I'm from Alberta originally, and the idea that Alberta would only get that pipeline um, if a favor was done to Mark Carney, as opposed to him asking for this, trying to get this, it seems rather upside down. Can you shed any light on how the conversation around that pipeline went? Because it sounds like Carney was reluctant.
Well, I mean, again, I as I was not in the room, okay, and it wouldn't be my role, even if I was, to talk specifically about how the negotiations went or whatever. There is no secret. Okay, this was talked about way back in October that the Canadian US relationship, one of the strong features was that you have oil. We process oil, we process it into all types of byproducts and those types of things. I really, can't shed any light other than it was something that we were interested in. I think everybody knows that we're interested in getting more oil. Uh, you know, Again, it will be the prime minister that will have to designate or put some context into it as to how shipping more oil into the United States from Canada, would be viewed by the federal government. That's not us.
I understand that you weren't there, especially in those final moments when things started to come apart. And I also understand that in a negotiation, certain things are confidential or you don't want to give the game away in public. I get that. But even if there were some aspects of the final notes that were published by the US trade rep, I think that would allow Canadians and Americans to assess what went on here. Because I think there's two competing narratives of what happened. And neither side is really informed by what exactly went on. We heard a little bit from Ambassador Greer when he denied that this was an attack on French language at all. But is it possible that the U.S. trade rep or the State Department or your office might be in a position to release certain non-confidential things to document the final falling out? Because some Canadians are skeptical of what the Prime Minister said, especially since when he described the Gordie Howe Bridge negotiation, I think it's pretty much agreed that he fibbed about it because he wanted a different public appearance than what really happened. Is there any way you can resolve this dispute by releasing some facts about those final terms?
No, I'm not. I'm not in a position to do that. I don't think Jameson will be doing that. I don't think the president will be doing that. The bottom line is, we think that we put a very, very fair and generous offer on the table to Canada. If Canada wants to review that and perhaps come back and discuss that and how we move forward and have a different outcome than what we have right now, the U.S. is more than open and willing to do that. As you identified, Jameson has moved on to other things, other important things that he's got on his calendar, and so we thought we presented a very fair and a very generous offer to Canada. And maybe at some point in the future we will come back and we'll be talking about those types of things. But right now that's not the case, and we've got a lot of work in front of us. Okay, we're not going back on this to try to win an argument with Canada about who derailed these negotiations. We're confident in terms of where we are, what we believe that we propose to the Canadians, and we are moving. We're moving on. But to go back and relitigate that is not something that is very helpful. Assuming that at some point in time we may be back at the table together with many of the same people.
I'll stop talking about those final moments, and I take your answer, and I understand it. I want to talk about something that you said to me the very first time we met when I interviewed you at the ambassador's office, and I think that a lot of people would see a posting in Ottawa as a kind of plum position. I mean, it's beautiful, it's safe, it's not like you're in Iraq or something, and the thing that struck me. And you know Canada well. You're a former congressman from Michigan, which is very integrated with Canada. The thing that struck me about our conversation was how surprised you seemed by the anti-Americanism you encountered, including in the media. And if I may, I think you came across as you were almost a little hurt by the anger. And since that time, it's just gone up by the power of 10 in the media, but also by our political leaders. I want to play for you a clip here of the Premier of Ontario, the largest province, and I'm just going to play about 30 seconds of it, because this is the state of our political rhetoric in 2026. I know you won't like this, but I'd like your reaction to this. Take a look.
I don't respond to a dictator like President Trump, a bully like President Trump. He's the type of guy in school that would take your lunch money one day, take your toque off your head the next day, and then steal your running shoes. I'm not going to take any advice off a guy that's the king of bankruptcies. You know, your own people, President Trump, don't even like you. And they're going to speak loud and clear when it comes to the midterms. And if I was allowed to, I'd be down there door knocking. I've dealt with guys like you my whole life. And guess what? You all become losers because you're a loser. I have more courage, more brains in my baby toe than he has in his whole body. I've been in this game a lot longer than he has. I got skin on me like an alligator. And you think an insult from him hurts me? Well, bring it on, buddy. I'm ready. Bring it on. I have a lot of real estate on my ass. So,
you know, I'll stop it there. It goes on. I see that. And by the way, that's every day. And the Premier of Manitoba is even worse, far worse. And that explains to me, I think, why there's an enormous antipathy. President Trump is known for some sharp nicknames and insults too, by the way. But I've never seen that kind of rhetoric from someone who allegedly wants to save jobs in a deal with our best customer. Now, contrast that to Alberta and Saskatchewan, who have not engaged in this kind of rhetoric and who have said, look, we regret the falling apart. Let's get back on track. I don't know what's happening. I have my views on it, but I'm a bit partisan. You're an American. What do you think is going on with that rant?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're disappointed. Let's get back and talk about the facts. Let's talk about how we can get to an agreement. But right now that's not where we're at. We're facing, Canadians, products going into the United States. They're facing a new series of 338 tariffs. American products coming to Canada will be facing a new set of tariffs beginning on September 8th. That is where we are right now. Canadians will feel a new set of tariffs coming in place on January 1. I get along well with Premier Ford. He can talk about his language. I'm not going to talk about. That's not what we're into right now. Okay, we were into trying to get to a trade deal. We don't call this a trade war. It's kind of like, okay, we've got a disagreement on tariffs. All right, let's move forward. And right now we're in a position where that's not going to happen.
Can I ask for you, as someone who's known?
You can ask whatever you want, as you can find out.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
See that there's some questions I'm just not going to answer.
No, fair enough. I was going to ask you. I mean, Donald Trump is known as a hard as nails New York brawler, who there's no tougher business than New York real estate. I mean, you got to be tough, and he's he's known as who gives nicknames and rough nicknames that stick, even to his people who later become friends, like the Secretary of State. He called him Little Marco. But they got over it because they're grown-ups and they had bigger fish to fry. Can you help Canadians understand the style of a president who says one thing, like we're going to rename Lake Ontario Lake America, like it's a taunt, it's a poke, and the whole country freaks out? And I'm thinking to myself, well, boy, he's found a soft spot. He's a humorous guy, even if you don't think he's funny. You can see he's like, I like that frisky style, but I think that tiny little thing like calling it Lake America or just the 51st state, which was like a prickle against Trudeau, and the whole country has had a freak out. That's what it looks like to me, but I'm a minority. Like if there was an election today, the anti-American camp would win a supermajority. I think it's because Canadians don't understand that rhetorical style. Am I wrong?
Far be it from me to call you or the Canadian people wrong. We know where that goes. Okay, that doesn't end up in a very good place. So let's just say they understand it all and they don't appreciate it. I can tell you that when I've been in a small group with the president, he is funny, and by that I mean he really does have a sense of humor. He uses it. He uses it in small groups. He uses it, obviously in this situation, he's using it in a large environment, and he's getting attention, and he's like you said, maybe he's taunting or whatever, and we'll see what kind of response he gets. But he enjoys doing it. He has been effective in getting the kind of results that he wants to get. He wants to get for American workers. He's focused very, very straightforward on this tariff discussion today. Okay, it's like I want to make sure that I get a good deal for American workers. And this is, I can go through and, I hear all the clamor about, we're going to try and, we're going to impact the midterms. And it's kind of like, okay. And it's sometimes as if it is assumed that there's no other argument. Oh, well, yeah, you got to see our argument. The American people are going to see our argument on this. And it's like, the president's got a very, 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 very good political head on his shoulders. It's like if you're in Michigan, if you're in Ohio, you go across the Midwest. It's like Donald Trump is fighting for your job, and he's fighting for it today. You've had enough presidents who have come and gone, who have signed trade deals that have taken your jobs and have moved them to other parts of the world, including Canada. And that's going to come to a stop. We're going to negotiate to save American jobs. And we're also believing that we're going to go through that process with Canada, and that when we're done, we will have a strong partner to the north. That is the option that we put on the table that was there on Friday. Canadians walked away from it. If that's not the deal that they want, they'll have the opportunity sometime in the future to come back and outline maybe what they want. But, we went through weeks, probably 3 weeks of negotiations here. And, for this stuff to be derailed at the last minute by some of the stuff that we've been accused of, probably, I don't know. You would have thought those things would have come up way earlier in the process. But the bottom line is we want a strong America. We'd like a strong Canada as well. And we think we've given them the opportunity to do that.
You've been very generous with your time, especially in this very busy moment. Maybe I can ask you one last question in a positive note. If we can get past this, if we can calm things down and come to an agreement. What could that look like? What do you think the biggest opportunity for Canada and the U.S. as partners looks like? Maybe if Canadians could see the vision, they could feel motivated to work towards it. What does a happy, productive partnership look like to you?
Yeah, well, we were there. Okay. I mean, it is, you know, it was a fortress North America. It was a fortress North America that said we're going to be energy independent, not America, North America, in terms of producing it, refining it, and processing it. We are going to be a fortress North America in terms of potentially automobiles. You know, like you said, I'm from Michigan. I know how much the auto industry is integrated. We are going to be a fortress North America in terms of how we protect ourselves militarily against the threats that are out there, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, or whether it's somebody else. That is in there. Those are the kinds of things that you have in there. You've got steel, you've got aluminum, you've got uranium, you've got food. All of those types of things were parts that we believed were, a future and a vision of taking, a relationship that was pretty darn good, and some would even go further than that. We created a lot of wealth and a lot of prosperity on both sides of the border, and we've walked away from that. Not us. We were more than willing to extend it and enhance it with a new trade agreement moving forward. But that's not where we're at, and we will see when we get back to it. I think it's pretty clear that your negotiators, what we want, what we're putting out there, and the promise that we've made to Canada that basically puts Canada at the front of the line in terms of having a trade agreement with the United States of America. And I think America is excited about that possibility, that at the forefront of that relationship is Canada. And, Canada hasn't seen that at this point.
I said that was my last question, but I've got to jam one more in because other
Sure.
people will chide me if I don't. And that is
Yeah.
dairy. In Canada, we have a dairy cartel that keeps out foreign competition and it keeps prices very high in Canada. Can you give us a word on how that issue was in the discussions or what the state of it is? Do you think there's any possibility that Canada could abandon its supply management system?
I don't think we push for supply management to be gone. I think we're asking for give us what you promised us 6 years ago in terms of access to the Canadian market, which we have not received. But give us back, give us and fulfill the promise that was made 6 years ago. There might have been a few other slight modifications, but I believe that supply management was going to stay in some form or another, and maybe very much in one form, similar to what is there today. That was not, that was not a stumbling block to getting to an agreement.
Very interesting. I'm so grateful to you for your time. And I know you have other commitments and other media you could talk to. So thank you for visiting us at Rebel News and look forward to catching up again.
We love free media, and not by meaning we get access to it for free. We love folks that that are out there. They're on their own. They are you're doing a service. You're educating your people, and at least we appreciate the opportunity to be able to go through you and offer an explanation from the American side as to exactly what, from our perspective, is going on. We know that there are those that present the Canadian perspective, they really don't provide us with much opportunity to provide the American perspective with questions. Okay, with questions, we're more than willing to take questions. We're not real fans of doing a long form interview and then seeing 30 seconds of it in a clip, which is like, let's see, you're asking that, we're answering that, and you've taken it, you've put it together, and it's kind of like, they go through you, they see the whole thing.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we won't.
And we are very appreciative of that opportunity.
Well, it's our pleasure, and we won't leave out a minute. And look forward to catching up with you again in the future. And good luck in this important project that you're working on.
Got it. Thank you. Have a great day.
There is U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. What do you think of this interview? Send me a note to Ezra@rebelnews.com. That's our show for today. Until next time, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, to you at home, good night, and keep fighting for freedom.